Hello, everybody. Welcome to our issue 5-2 launch party. I'm really excited to be here today with some of our amazing staff members and quite a few of our contributors from this issue that just came out on October 15th. We always have our launch party the Saturday after the issue comes out. So the issue launched last week and the next Saturday is today. So I'm really thrilled to be here with everybody. This has the same format as our past launch parties. So I'm going to announce who's going to be reading. They can introduce themselves and then read from their piece. I'll be sharing my screen, and the artists can also feel free to follow along with the links that were posted in the chat. So without further ado, we're going to take it away. And our first reader today is Nicole Hazan with the work Cycles.
Hi, thank you. Would you like me to introduce myself?
You can say a little bit about yourself if you want. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm Nicole, and I'm just happy to be here, everyone, and I'm just gonna start reading. One more thing that she hated about Phil was how he always had to put on a show. They were only at the compass, but he kept looking behind Cassie's head to see if anyone was watching. To make sure they did, he was wearing a t-shirt that showed his bicep, his lion tattoo poking out of one sleeve. The overhead heaters burned the top of Cassie's head, her legs covered by one of the blankets the pub gave out. Cigarette smoke clouded the air as people walked past them on West End Lane, easing through the gaps between the small outside tables and the road. When the waitress brought their drinks over, Cassie saw that she was pregnant, around 5 months from the looks of it. Cassie felt a lurching surprise, as if someone had appeared without her noticing to prod her hard between her shoulder blades. The waitress stretched across Cassie to put Phil's beer down next to him, and her belly brushed the table, close to Cassie's face. This was all Cassie needed. Phil already kept grinning at her meaningfully, trying to kiss her every time she came close enough. He kept bringing up memories of when they'd first got together and asking, his lips twitching at the corners, whether she wanted him to take his gym equipment out of the spare bedroom. Phil asked the waitress when she was due, his gloved hand twitching on Cassie's jeans. Cassie took out her phone and scrolled through Instagram. The waitress was having a baby at the end of March, which Phil agreed was an excellent time to give birth. She looked very well, he said. The waitress's eyes flicked to Cassie's. She must have thought Phil was flirting with her. People often looked at Cassie in this way, as if to ask for an explanation of what Phil said or did. They didn't realize Phil's behavior was usually to make some sort of point. Could we get the bill? She asked the waitress, who nodded and moved away through the closely packed tables. We just got our drinks, Phil said. To prove it, he raised his beer and took a slow sip. He watched the waitress over the rim. She won't be here long, in her condition. Doesn't look like it. Would you want to work at 5 months? It must be heavy. I don't know. You need energy for teaching, and you'd have to lug those books around. Sandra Coleman got a doctor's note when she was 6 months, didn't she? Because she was high risk. And no one was going to miss an art teacher much, were they? She could feel him looking at her. His voice bubbled with excitement. Are you pregnant? Pregnant? It was almost a relief he'd asked. Still, the word sent faint reverberations through her skull. She dug the tips of her fingers into the table. It rocked under the pressure, one leg shorter than the other. Phil looked poised to reach over and pull her into his arms, sweeping their glasses off the table. It's too soon to tell, she said. He sank back into his seat. You're 4 days late. She kept her voice even. I told you not to count. Of course I've been counting. How could I not? 4 days. That's an excellent sign, Cassie. The waitress came over with their card reader, and Phil pulled out his card, as he always did, though their bank account was shared, and tapped it against the screen. It leaked a faint light onto his hands. She scraped her chair back while he was waiting for their receipt. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Phil adjusting the ends of his long wool coat. Even he had to accept that away from the heaters, it was too cold to show off his arms. That was dramatic, he said. Dramatic? She snorted. You're one to talk. Her legs felt slow and heavy, a painful tugging in her groin. They'd said to expect that from all the hormones. She couldn't walk as quickly as she was used to. All her jumpers were tight. Phil fell into step beside her, and hope sputtered in her stomach. She willed it still. Phil reached for her hand and squeezed it. There were his familiar calluses from lifting weights, rough against her palm. We have tests, don't we? You can take one when we get home. We've run out. Let's go to Boots. He glanced at his watch. He picked up his face, and she jerked his hand. She opened her mouth to speak and closed it. Phil twisted to look at her and ran his thumb over her fingers. She tugged at his hand and they continued walking. Her boots clacked on the street. She counted their steps and her heartbeat slowed, and she felt able to say steadily, I'm only 4 days late. Don't get your hopes up. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That was a great reading.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really love this piece. I forgot to say, because I'm kind of scatterbrained, but yeah, if you guys hear a line or something that you like, feel free to, kind of comment in the chat as we go along. Yeah, so you guys can read the rest of Cycles at the link. I really encourage you to, because the rest of the story is just so mesmerizing and great. Yeah. So our next reader is Michael and Marissa with Deborah. Michael? I know sometimes there can be some issues, so yeah. Hey, Michael, can you hear us? If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Okay. All right, he's probably figuring things out. So yeah. We'll just wait for him to come back, and I'll kind of move things around. So Jennifer, if you could go next, if that's okay. Yeah.
Sure. So I just have the one poem in the issue that I'll be reading. Self-Portrait as Chihuly Makia, Chihuly Garden in Glass, 2023. If the body is an archive of glass and breath and air, if beauty doesn't have to be functional, then maybe I can take up space in this room. I've never been functional, but I was pretty and might still remember how to expand to meet the scale of my desires. Might remember how to pour like honey and swirl like a girl's skirt. Remember how to shape shift on a simple human breath. Heat and air and furnace, endless immutability of form. If calm and contrast, then 300 colors might carry me. If I'm only alive when I don't know what I'm doing, alive when I don't know if I will break, then let me push the boundaries of thinness and collapsibility. Let me pour my breath into the narrow pipe of this life, into expand and expanse. If I don't shatter, I could settle into something beautiful.
Jennifer, what a lovely reading. Thank you so much for this poem. It's really gorgeous. Okay, I don't know. Michael, I see that you came back. Can you hear us? And do you want to read your poem? Right. I'll type to him. Sorry, it's really hard to multitask, but yeah, so I'll type something to him. But yeah, if you could go, Julie, yeah, we would love to hear your poem.
Okay.
View from our first floor apartment. An unidentified noise stalks our home, bearded as a freshly freed convict, wavering on the cusp of madness, in search of a childhood memory, gasping as if for air or blood. They hear it too. I tuck them in protective plush promises, then scuffle until morning with ghost children whose windows and doors once let in more than a breeze. There are no bodies rotting in the woods behind our house, I say nightly, in the language of forehead kisses, fairy smiles. Boot soles aren't sticky enough to scale the brick wall, but my children cling to me anyway, willing us to the third floor. When I say, I'll keep you safe, what I mean is I'd move tomorrow. I want to believe our neighbors are rearranging furniture, that the alarm siren would, like a baseball bat, shatter an intruder's stride, that my children ever haunt the graveyard of future parents' dreams. Thank you.
I thank you, Julie. It was so well delivered. I could really feel that sort of tension come to life. So wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so Michael said that he had some audio issues, but I think things are working now. So I would love to hear you read, Deborah.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, we can hear you, Michael. Good
Hello.
evening.
Okay, so Deborah, I enter memory through its mouth, that round purple orifice where God is nothing but a shift in language, a war for supremacy. I see you gap-toothed girl, your flesh lit with fire, your bones brimming with napalm, a casualty of this war. At sermon, the pastor said we must burn for God. I cannot help but imagine this was what he meant. The way your hair became one with the fire, the way your bones crackled dry wood in the raw of amber flame. I am sorry I could do nothing. I had nothing to give to except poems. What use is my poetry if it cannot save a life? I hid behind the sun-kissed tree unwashed. The birds were silent. Air was black and quiet. Everything was new. The dust, laced with its marigold fear, did not lift a finger. I waited for rain, for the merciful tears of God to wash your flesh into gold, something beautiful enough to survive fire. A friend wrote, life is a sentence. If to end the sentence, a punctuation is required, then the fire was the full stop. The way a full stop is closure. Deborah wounded you, they sutured you, like how a sickle cuts through a sprouting pumpkin, like how the moon eclipses the sun and the day is no longer day again. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Such a powerful poem. Yeah, it's so gutting. Um, I'm so glad that you got to read it. So we have a little bit of a thing and we're fixing it, but our next presenter is actually a visual artist and she couldn't be here today, but Cass will be reading a statement about their work. And unfortunately, it's not live on the website yet because of some things, but you can see it here. And I'm going to zoom in and sort of pan. Can I pan? All right. Yeah, so this is the work, and I'm really sorry because it's like not live on the web yet, but it will be fixed really soon. So Cass, if you could present Resonance.
Yes, for sure. Resonance, state of a system that vibrates at its own frequency, with markedly greater amplitude as a result of external stimuli that have the same vibration frequency. The environment in which we live is capable of altering our physical, mental, and cultural state. How we reflect and resonate according to these changes that we are subjected to daily in society is the starting point for the creation of this series that emerged in the midst of the pandemic. Resonance is a series made during the pandemic with 8 works painted on canvas and collage of MRI images kindly provided by a friend of mine.
Thank you so much, Cass. Yeah, I really love this artwork. I think that all of our art is just amazing. And I'm really happy that we have some visual artists today who are going to present their work. But yeah, so you can check it in the PDF of our issue, and the web link will be fixed soon. Right. Okay. So next up, we have CK Abraham with I Dream of Produce.
Hi.
Hi.
Is it okay if I start just like a little bit down? I was gonna start reading at I think it's after the first break. Yeah, after dropping out of college. Yeah, that part. Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I'll just read from a different document. 1 second. Okay. After dropping out of college, I rented a studio in the northwest outskirts of the city, taking the rickety QR train to the suburban supermarket I work in. I manage the fruit and vegetable section. With sheer gloves, I monitor the produce for freshness. Nothing softened or browned, no breeding grounds for the fruit fly larvae, useless, disgusting insects, burrowing to the core of things and multiplying their tiny bodies and frantic wings. The QR is unreliable, so I make sure to take the earliest train available. On the cracked leather seats, I watch other commuters in their morning silence, heads nodding to music from tiny earbuds, legs jiggling. My ears perk up, trying to hear their music too. My vision blurs as I briefly see through their eyes, slip out of my skin and into theirs. Sometimes I have the urge to grab these strangers, scream in their faces, reach inside of them and discover what they are made of, so that I can be as real as they are. There are weeks in which my body doesn't feel real at all, like these hands are someone else's hands, my face a video game, an alien thing in the mirror. I yearn for the sights and smells of my produce. I am so lonely. It's easy to slip out of my skin. I'm fascinated with the idea of transformation, alchemy, tin willing itself to become gold, the alchemist imagining the very properties of gold itself, understanding it cell by cell, learning each chemical reaction required, the right variables and catalysts, combustion and synthesis and decomposition. Teresa told me I was like a ghost, sneaking up behind her without a word, observing silently from corners. Before she stopped talking to me, she claimed she didn't know me at all, what to get me for my birthdays, what movies I liked. I'm not surprised. If we hadn't hung out for a few days, she might pass me on campus without recognizing me, as everyone else did. I am difficult to remember, to notice, to pin down. Maintenance of the produce section is not just a matter of appearance. It is about understanding the truest form of the produce. I recheck everything throughout the day. Produce should be not just edible, but bright, bursting. It must perform on the tongue. Temperatures need to be logged, moisture maintained and deterred. There is a constant rearrangement of shapes and colors. These are scientific variables. I hold the canary yellow lemons, the bristling bloom of broccoli. I am always hungry during my shift, always forgetting to eat breakfast in my rush to get to the store. I hunger for the vibrancy of the produce, their curves, their feel, glossy and fuzzed, firm and spiked, substantial. A furtive sniff of the day's fresh oranges. I want to grow into someone juicy, the best of the crop, something to be painted in still life, consumed, ripe but not yet rotted, something not human but grown and plentiful. I have been buying out all the reduced price oranges, spending my evenings feeling their textures and topography. After peeling the fruit until my fingers prune, I eat dinners of citrus. I'm enjoying the peace of being away from others. I can focus on beauty and form and physicality. The orange's round, dynamic globe seeps into my consciousness. My flesh is becoming rigid underneath my fingertips. The underbelly of my arm polishes to a slick shine. My pale brown is now imbued with shades of auburn and ginger and canary yellow, sometimes like jaundice, other times like the pulsing of a sunrise from within my core. Night after night, I stare at the bowl of glistening oranges on my kitchen table, under the single light bulb, the buzz of the AC unit behind me. So I'll stop there.
Oh, CK, thank you for such a great reading. I absolutely love this piece, and I love to see how it's come out. When I saw it in the queue, it was, yeah, I think it has evolved a lot.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to see like the end result of that. So big kudos to our prose editors. Good. I think that I saw, yeah, I saw that you came. Thank you so much for coming. We just presented your art. Cass read your statement that you had sent us by submittable. So that's going to be in the recording, but certainly after we finish presenting, we will have kind of like a Q&A. So please feel free to stick around. I think some people might want to ask some questions about like your art and like different things. So no stakes. But yeah, it's really good. So I think that our next presenter had some like time zone issues because I saw that he joined our Zoom earlier today, but he's not here now. So I'm going to go ahead and present this work. So this is the Mass Nupe Drummers. It's a photograph taken in Nigeria in 2022. So here is the photo, and then the statement is here, right? So they're a traditional musical group from the Nupe people of Nigeria. They're known for their unique style of drumming and their striking costumes with faces covered with silky materials and brightly colored ropes. The Nupe people have a long and rich history of music and dance, and the Mass Nupe drummers are one of the most renowned examples of this tradition. They use a variety of drums and percussion instruments to create complex rhythms and melodies, accompanied by singing and chanting. The drummers themselves are highly skilled musicians who have dedicated years of their lives to mastering the art of drumming. They are known for their precision and their ability to create complex rhythms that are both hypnotic and mesmerizing. Drummers are an important part of Nupe culture and are often seen performing at weddings, Sala festivals, and other important ceremonies. Yeah, I really love the detail that's captured here. I feel like we can really see like the different textiles working together. So yeah, I'm really sorry that the photographer could not be here, but yeah, hopefully we can always follow up and see if you have any comments that you'd like to pass on to him. I can always send him a message. Yeah. So I think our last presenter today is Lisa Rigg. And Lisa is also a visual artist. So, oh gosh, I know it's hard to like get the whole piece in here without kind of zooming. And of course okay. So Lisa, if you would like to say something about your piece, yeah, please take it away.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much. I'm honored to be published in this wonderful issue. This piece started out with a friend in my studio, and we were playing around with blue paint, and she left, and from there I developed the image by taking a piece of a Madonna photograph I had taken for the face, which seems to be a symbol in my collage work, and working around that with various rice papers and little bits of photographs, and it developed for me into an archetype of the divine feminine. I once had a dream fragment that I liked Mary, not because she was Jesus's mother, but because she was the archetype of the divine feminine. And so she gazes into sunset, forever eternal and forever connection between heaven and earth.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, this is just gorgeous. And I love how the colors are so evocative. I think that the colors and like the shapes and textures in this issue are just phenomenal. So yeah, this is just gorgeous work. Thank you so much. Right, did I forget to link? I am really bad at those, so sorry. Anyway, so you can check out Lisa's piece here. And yeah, I hope that you'll also look at the other amazing stuff in the issue. We've got it on PDF, so you can kind of download it and read it, or you know, all the web links work. We're working on She's web link. I'm really sorry about that too. Anyway, so we're gonna move into our next phase, which is essentially yeah, it's like a no stakes, no pressure Q&A. Yeah, as you can see, right, we've got some really amazing contributors. So if you would like to ask somebody a question, or if you have a question for one of our staff, or just like the staff of CR in general, now is your time to shout that out to the heavens. Yeah, so please feel free to unmute and just let fly.
I have a
Brooke, I think you froze. Uh-oh. Just yes, somebody else can go for now, and hopefully Brooke will come back to us.
Yeah, Zabib here. I had a question about cycles by Nicole. I mean, just like a general question of, I mean, I just read the blurb of your explanation before, but I'm wondering how the character of Phil, yes, Phil, came about.
Thanks. He was actually is based on someone I used to be friends with who was just very big character. And honestly, when I workshopped that story, I was told to tone him down because he was too when I first did workshop that he was too despicable. He was too unlikable. So I tried to sort of make him a bit more mellow, but the person it's based on is really a very extreme person, for good and for bad.
It's great inspiration.
Yeah, it was good inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, just as a final note, like I just love how he comes across in this final version of the story, because he comes off very strongly as a character, but in these very precise observations that are just moments that work very well. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I have a question. Hopefully my Zoom doesn't quit on me again. My question's for you, Zabib. We have a 3-month kind of submission period, and yours was one of like the first pieces that caught our eyes. We've kind of held on to it the longest, and I think it really stuck in my brain and Nadia's brain quite a bit. I'm curious, like, to me, the imagery is just so strong and so visceral. I'm curious for you, what was the entry point in that story? Did it start with language?
Yeah, I think everything I write starts with language, and then I try to make up a story to justify whatever sort of imagery is on my mind. And I think I said in the explanation, but like I do this prompt group with a group of writers sometimes, and randomly the idea of a woman turning into an orange came to me, and I was like, that's so stupid. But then I thought about it more, and I really, really liked it. So then just sort of the lines were coming to me, and then tried to craft a story around it. Then the idea of this, like, that she is at this stage of life. Why is she working in the supermarket? And then she had this woman she was, or fellow student she was in love with, Teresa. So that all came on top of it later. But yeah, I just wanted to write that imagery specifically. And I was really thinking a lot about, even though it's not the same, convenience store woman. I don't know. I was just thinking about that book a lot when I was writing this. So thank you.
She, if you don't mind, I have a question about resonance. Because I know in your statement you said that these were partially taken from some of these MRI scans. And as somebody who gets migraines and therefore has had way too many MRIs in her life, like it really kind of resonates, like the way that the form and like the different textures, it's so great because it's like reminiscent of brains, but like only in a few of them can you really tell, okay, this is a brain. So, yeah, I was just wondering about like your process and how that came to be. Is that something that you're interested in, like as an artist, or is it something that you just started? Like, how did you conceive of this project?
Hi everyone. I will try to speak in English, but it's not my primary language, so I'm sorry, but I will try my best. So yeah, it's the MRI from my husband. He had a huge problem with his eyes, and for about 6 months we didn't know what was going on with them. But he had this MRIs, and I started to looking at this, and I was like, oh, that's something powerful. That's something I could use one of my artworks. So I was in the midst of the pandemic. Everything was really like a huge explosion, and things was starting to fallen in, like taking place again, and we all didn't know how the things were going to go. So I felt like I just had to do some artwork, and at the moment I was not able to paint. I was not able to paint with colors. So I think the black and white of the MRIs came at the best time to my work, because I was not able to color stuff. So I started to working with the MRIs and with black and white acrylics. And I think the idea was to transform that explosion, that huge explosion that was happening in the world, into something more calm, more quietly, like we all wanted to feel that calmness, but we didn't knew when the moment where it happened. It would happen. That's something like that. Sorry for my English. I'm really shy, but I tried.
Oh no, that was great. I don't worry, like we totally understood, we got it. Yeah, I totally feel that. Yeah, I know a lot of people, I feel like disruption is a good word for like the pandemic, right? The artistic practices of basically all of the creative people I know changed or evolved in some way, whether it went into kind of a hibernation and maybe it's just emerging now, or people changed their practices, they changed what media they were working in. So yeah, I think it was a time of growth but also struggle. And then, yeah, I can't imagine on top of that having, some sort of serious health issue. I love the way that those things dovetailed and you were able to process that and sort of make something out of it creatively. So yeah, that's why I asked. Thank you so much for answering the question.
Another question for some of the poets here. On the prose side, we don't read the poetry until it's published, so it's always like this amazing surprise and delight to us to discover like all the gorgeous poetry that's complementing all of the prose. So first, this was the first I heard all these poems. It was just so beautiful to hear your voices. My question specifically is for Jennifer, because your piece really resonated. And I saw in your artist statement that it was inspired by when you were in Seattle. I was also in Seattle, but I used my free time just to eat. So I would love to hear how your experience informed the poem and if it came to you quickly.
Yeah, thank you. I did visit the museum when I was in Seattle on the strong advice of a friend's husband, for which I am very grateful. And I live in Switzerland. And so when I go into the US for something like a writer's conference, I try to stay a few extra days because it's a ridiculously long flight to just be in 3 days. So I had extra time to just be in Seattle. And I went to the museum and he's world famous, and I became obsessed after the fact, but I had actually never seen his glasswork before until I went into that museum. So I was just astonished. And you go through the museum and it sort of traces his development. And the final room was these enormous, the macchia pieces are enormous glass pieces. And they're spun out until they get as big as they can stand, basically. And the very next day, a friend who lives in Seattle was like, hey, you want to have a little writing time together? And so we went and wrote for about 2 hours. And so it did really come the next day. The first draft of it did come the next day after the visit to the museum. And I think it was only because if I had that time, if I had to jump onto a plane and jump right back into real life, I think the feeling of the museum would have left me.
That's great. It makes me think about maybe like how we need to process our time after we go to museums, because I think I quickly move on, and that sounds really lovely to have that writing time to reflect.
Thank you.
Great. Does anybody else have questions? It's totally okay. If you have some questions for us, it's your time to pick the actors' brains. We have a reader here.
I just wanted to say more of a comment that Michael's poem, Deborah, was really, really powerful. So I don't know if I have a specific question about it, because I think he answers nicely in the explanation he gives about the inspiration and how hard it was to write. But yeah, it's really just so vivid. So yeah, just thanking him for reading it.
Yeah, seconded all the way.
Hi, I'm Rashna. I wanted to just say that I don't have a question for anyone, but I just wanted to say how lovely the pieces were and your reading, and it's just so nice to hear the words. It takes it to a different level, and so I really appreciate that and all your hard work. So thank you. no questions, but just a big thank you.
I also have a comment and a question for the editors. After reading this issue, I was just so moved as I am today after hearing all the voices. The pieces are so powerful and really touch me deeply, and it's something that will stay with me. I don't know if you can answer the question quickly, but how do you imagine the issue as it's coming together? Or how do you choose and put it together? What is your process?
I can take a stab at this. We do not start with an initial vision. We're very much reacting to what people are sending us. So it really builds itself as we kind of go through the process. On the prose side, as well as poetry, we create a short list. So pieces that catch several readers' attention and then catch the editor's attention, we shortlist so we can consider them all and how they work together, kind of looking at range, diversity, nonfiction, fiction, flash, prose. We have a lot of kind of different elements that we look at on the prose side. And sort of, it just sort of starts forming from there, but it definitely comes kind of piece by piece. And I agree, when you see it all together, it's really touching. It's beautiful to see how like some things maybe accidentally complement each other. These authors aren't working together, but you can see how when compiled, it kind of has a larger message. But we're very much kind of reacting to what people are submitting and working with writers to hone those pieces further. But I think we're always a little bit odd at what we do at the end of launch as well, because we do start with nothing and then we end up with something.
Yeah, I can kind of speak to what happens after that, which is basically the pieces show up. And like, I do read them before, right? Because we sort of talk about like, okay, what should we accept? Like, what's going on with that? Like, how are things? And James and I are there to kind of shepherd the process. He's traveling today, so he wasn't able to make the launch party, but he and I are very involved in terms of, just like making sure everything is going well and ironing out any issues that come up, like, publishing rights or just some questions about like different things. And then when I get the work, I try to sit with it and put it in the issue in an order that sort of enhances the way that the pieces go with each other. So we try to space out the visual art so that you can have kind of a break for your eyes to like see something besides just words. And yeah, it's kind of a complicated process, right? Because it also depends on, like if you've heard of like so-called orphans, when it comes to like making books and things, like you don't want to have like a sentence or a single line on like another page. So some of it is like not just the content, but this poem, it's a little too long. So what do we do to the page display? How do we make it work? And sometimes that also dictates what should be on the opposite page. So if you go through the PDF, you can see that in terms of, some of them we play around with the spacing or, the way that we're thinking about things. And we have a new feature, which we call Tales from the Queue, which is two readers who had a hand in like selecting the pieces, talking about what about the piece resonates with them, like what about it was really special for them, either the first time they read it or like every single time that they read and engaged with it as we choose it for publication. So now my work is a little easier because we always know what to start with, right? We can always start with those two pieces. So we start like the piece, the Tales from the Queue, and then the other one. And that kind of works really well for us. So if you have a chance, I would love for you to read those by Catherine and Max. They're two great readers. They're really dynamic, and yeah, they've been with us for a while. So yeah, that's basically how things go, and we just try to keep you guys first, right? We try to keep things I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces, there's a lot of things to do, but we're always thinking about, we're also writers, we're also artists. Like, we want our work to be treated with care out in the world. So treat the work the way that you would want your own work to be treated. Have a really clear process, but also just, respect that like things come up. And yeah, we want it to be a process where you can walk away feeling really good, not like, oh, I got published, so now what? Yeah, and I think that that's our ethos, and that's how we operate. Uh,
I want to say this might be a strange compliment for the editors and the magazine, but I want to point out that so my piece was shortlisted. So I got the notification from the editors saying that I'd been put on the shortlist. And then you had this little statement that, we guarantee a 30 days response. And because pieces on the shortlist might take us 90 or longer days to respond, if you paid a submission fee, we will refund that, because it's going to take us longer than 30 days to decide on this piece now that you're sitting in the shortlist. And that is such an ethical position. And there's always somebody submitted to a magazine and the magazine folded and they never got their submission fees back, or people enter a contest and they found out that the winner of the contest by seeing it announced on social media and didn't even get their own rejection letter. And that just stood out as just such a super ethical position that I really, really appreciated. And absolutely not. I think any writer would not even think, well, now it's taking longer than 30 days. I want my money back. I don't think that would occur to anybody at all. And yet you put it in there, and it's just a tiny little thing, but really ethical, that I really, really appreciated. So I just want to say that.
No, thank you, Jennifer. That's what we like to hear. And like I said, like, we've all been in that situation. I mean, right? Like, okay, you pay your fee and the magazine folds and they don't even tell you, let alone offer to refund it. Like, I understand, people don't have money. So maybe, okay, it's just like a business. If they go bankrupt, maybe you're not getting your money back or the service that you paid for. But yeah, that contest thing, it's really disappointing to me personally. And I think for all of us, we've had weird experiences like that are not so great. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, we're working hard to do these things, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I'd like to ask because I'd like to ask because I did a Google Doc form, and there you'd be asked personal questions like your race, your identity, your sexual identity, and all that. So I wanted to know, how do you take into considerations our varied identity in the case of choosing poems? Do you take them into consideration so as not to come out as being racially prejudiced, or being just to have so much diversity in race or sexual identity or any of those? Do you take that into consideration while publishing?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So first of all, the demographic survey, both for the published artists and the one that you get after you submit, those are completely optional, and it's not used in our submission decisions. That's totally for us. First of all, because we like to know who's submitting to the magazine, because that's helpful for us in terms of getting grants, making sure that we're reaching the audience we want to reach in terms of like who's trying to submit work. And it helps keep us honest, right? Because what we do is essentially we take that survey, which, okay, we understand not everybody has time to fill it out, but we take those survey results and we see, okay, who's submitting versus who is who's being published. And I think that one thing that's really important to note about that is, like, for instance, I'm reading this great book on the representation of Asian and Asian American people in Hollywood, in movies and TV shows and things. And it's pointing out stuff like, okay, Asian American people are, I forget exactly how much of the population we are, but for the sake of my poor memory, let's call it 5%. But then if you look at the demographics of TV producers, movie directors, TV directors, showrunners, writers, etc., right, the percentage is something like 1 or 2%, right? So we want our published authors and artists to reflect the world as it is and the people that we're engaging with. So there's two things, right? If we're not getting enough submissions by certain demographics, that means that we need to do more work, more outreach. And if we're getting submissions, but we're not publishing certain people or certain categories, then maybe we need to think about our overall ethos. So I don't think it's any different than any other business, service, or other thing that's out there in the world these days, right? We are not trying to discriminate or to select on the basis of something, but we need to know as an organization where we are in the waters so we can steer the ship in the right direction. So in terms of actually selecting people to publish, and this is something that we're all involved in, from like our associate editors to me, to our EIC, I think there's two angles, right? The first angle is we want to hire staff and readers who reflect a diverse world. And that doesn't mean that we're looking like, okay, I'm going to pledge to put a Black woman on the court or some, it's not as simple as that, but we're definitely looking for people who have different perspectives because they understand things that we don't. They understand things that they have different experiences, right? Somebody from Nigeria has a totally different worldview than somebody from, Palestine or from the UK. So that's great. Like, we really want that. And the second thing is that, yeah, if we feel like an issue is getting too much in one direction or another, we might try to be more on the lookout for somebody with talent who offers a different perspective, because we don't want to have it be, okay, we value diversity, we value these things, but then we always just publish the same sort of person, whatever that may mean. And that's a really complicated conversation to have. So it does weigh into who we shortlist and who we ultimately select for publication. But I think that, right? I mean, in the survey, it's like sometimes we get 150 submissions a week across all categories. So you can imagine that in the course of a 3-month reading period, we get plenty of really great submissions that we have to pass on. And I think that even in our chapbooks, but also in our pieces, Brooke, not even like you can contradict me if I'm wrong, but like there's some pieces that we've passed on that I still think about, and I'm like, I really, really, really wish that piece got published somewhere, because it would be a horrible shame if like the author got rejected from CR and then that piece never found its way out in the world, because it's still like in my brain. Like the way that Brooke said that oranges were on her and Nadia's mind because, we sat with that piece for like 3 months, but yeah, it happens all of the time. We have so much brilliant work. Yeah, so if you guys have anything to like add to that, that's like where we are, at least from my perspective.
I really appreciate your answer. I think it's okay. Yes, I asked because I noticed the diversity in your issue, and I really appreciated it. Yes, I really appreciated, not appreciate. Appreciated, yes. You gave it a new look, so I want to appreciate that. Thank you. You did well.
Great. That's my last call for questions or comments of any sort. See, we have at least one pet on Zoom today. Hey. All right, so thank you so much for your work. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being who you are. You are all awesome and amazing. This isn't the end. Please keep in touch. First off, we're open for chapbooks until the end of November. So if you do have a chap, we would love to see you. And we're open in the spring and the fall. We're already publishing a couple of people who had their pieces published in CR. And yeah, we always love it when our contributors submit. If you're going to be at AWP next year, we'll be there. And there might be some opportunities in terms of like if you have something to come by the booth and come see us, meet us in person, that would be awesome. And like we're cooking up big things because this is our 5-year kind of thing, right? We're on volume 5, issue 2. So we are thinking about like different things that we want to do with our community, but please stay in touch. If you ever need anything from us, let us know, tag us in your socials, keep the conversation going. It was so great to see you all today. Thank you so much.